Good morning. I have some great news. Our board met Saturday morning with the purpose of discussing reopening real church services on Sunday mornings. And the great news I have is that we're going to try it. We don't know how it's going to work out. Things may change between now and then, but beginning Mother's Day, May 9th, church as we remember it, or close to that, is going to reopen at 11 a.m. Sunday, Mother's Day, May 9th. There's going to be restrictions, 50% occupancy. Everyone will be required to wear a mask. And the family clusters and people who have been vaccinated can kind of sit closer together in the front. And we'll kind of play it by ear and see how it works out. The overall condition in our county may change between now and then, and we may not be able to, but at least we have an intention and a plan. And I hope to see all of you May 9th at 11 a.m. Okay. Today, I'd like to talk to you about something I've been thinking about for the last week or so. Prince Philip passed away recently, and I watched a couple of PBS specials about his life and who he was. He was 99 years old, and he was quite a special fellow. And they described him as a young man, he was definitely an alpha male in the Navy and had a lot of ambition. And then he married Princess Elizabeth. I remember it well. I was 3 weeks old when they got married. And for a while, when he was just an officer in the Navy and she was just a princess, life was great for them. And then Princess Elizabeth became Queen Elizabeth, and alpha male Philip had to become a very passive individual in their life, in their relationship, in the public eye. And I think that was probably very, very difficult for him. And I thought about Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth was born in 1926. Sometime this year, she will celebrate her 95th birthday. My mother was born in 1926. She passed away this February. She was 94, a month prior to her 95th birthday. Vivian Clark was born in 1926, and she will be celebrating her 95th birthday, got your pencils ready, May 27th. And I thought about these people, these couples, their generation, very different than my generation or the current generations. And I asked myself, what's the big difference? What's the big generational difference? And what I've come up with is that people born in 1926 and 1920, and that particular generation, they had an ability to possess in their belief system and to hold things in their life called sacred. To them, their wedding vows were sacred. Creating a family was sacred. I think over the last few generations, that concept, that belief, that understanding of sacred has all but gone away. I looked in the dictionary and Wikipedia for the definition of sacred. And there's a lot of religious connotation, but in more of a philosophical viewpoint, to hold something sacred, it's to hold that thing or that experience or that agreement in awe and respect. And I thought about Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth. True, very rich, being queen and prince. They didn't have to experience some of the hardships that people with less notoriety and less financial support might have to. But in their 73-year marriage, it wasn't all roses and sunshine. I think about my mom and dad. They got married, and I remember they'd spit and sputter and argue and, fuss and yip, yip, yip at each other. But their marriage and their family was sacred. And they never lost that respect that they held those things in. I've come to know Vivian very well over the last 20-some years. And her marriage with her husband was sacred until death did them part. My folks, death did them part. My dad was 74 when he passed. This thing we call sacred, I think that it's entering into a covenant, an agreement, a sacred agreement, that to the best of our ability, we're not going to ever let anything encroach upon that. Stop and think, what do you hold sacred in your life? In our governance, our world governments, and world societies and world economies, there's almost nothing sacred. Wall Street and the economy are sacred. Indigenous people used to hold nature as sacred. They entered into a covenant with nature. Nature provided them everything they needed to sustain life. And they held that in awe and respect. And they held that relationship in a very sacred place. 99% of the countries and the corporations in our world today, to them, nature is merely a commodity that they can profit from. If we ask young people in our society today, what is sacred to you? They might say, well, Wi-Fi connection and cell phone connection, that's sacred. But I think our society really needs to hang on to the sacred. It's the one thing we shouldn't let go away with the generations. You know, Vivian retired a little over 4 years ago. And one of the first changes I made when I became the sole minister at Church of the Oaks was right here on the order of service. Ringing of the bell, the first song, and the first words that I spoke were entitled, "The Sacredness of Awareness and Understanding." That we might hold sacred our expanded awareness and understanding, and in that holding sacred, we enter into a covenant with Spirit, with God, with the divine. And using this understanding, this awareness, that covenant allows us to tap in to the divine Spirit, to tap into divine wisdom and empathy and forgiveness and love, to elevate our consciousness to include all of life, all of our universe. I think as I question myself, what do I hold sacred? What I'm doing right now, speaking to you, I hold that the most sacred act of my life. Working together with you to expand our awareness and understanding. I believe that is truly sacred. To interact with my fellow human beings and with nature, using the expanded awareness and understanding that being here has allowed me to experience, is truly a sacred experience. So as we go through the evolution of our personal lives, I ask each of you to ask yourself, what do you hold sacred? And I think it may be perhaps the most important question you ever ask. Because what we hold sacred allows us the privilege of having a covenant of experience and insight and being part of the divine. When we hold something sacred, it allows us to step into a different dimension of this life experience. I hope sacred does not go extinct with the people born in the 1920s. May we each search and find something in our lives that we can hold sacred, and in so doing, other things will present themselves that we can indeed hold as sacred. My friends, I hold each of you as sacred in my life. May we all realize and embrace and nurture what it is in each of our lives that we hold sacred. I look forward to seeing all of you on Mother's Day, and so it is.